This is the Superbox S6 Ultra, and this is the Superbox S6 Max. So why are these two boxes so popular on Amazon? Well, apparently, if you buy one of these boxes, you can have all of the video on demand channels, all of the sports channels, all of the TV channels, pretty much everything for just the cost of the box. That's right, there's no subscription. You buy the box and you're done. So, what is the catch on this box? What is the upside? What is the downside? Well, if you'd like to know more, keep watching because you're watching Blue Collar Guy. Okay, we're back. So, what is the deal on these super boxes? Well, before I begin, I have to let you know that Superbox did send me out both of these boxes. I actually requested this one and this one because I wanted to send this one to my friend's house because he has a slower internet connection and I have a higher speed internet connection. And I wanted to see what the difference was if you buy one or the other because this one's about $100 more, I think, than this one. So, which one is the better value? And is the Superbox a good value to begin with? Is it worth buying one of these boxes? Is there any legal issues that you could run into if you have one of these boxes? Well, we're going to talk about that. So before I begin, I should also let you know that I'm not a lawyer and you should always consult with your local laws to see if this box is going to be legal for you to use. And I'm not talking about just the box, I'm talking about the software that you're going to be putting on the box. Because the box itself is not against the law to own. It's just a computer. And computers are not illegal to buy. It's just basically a mini PC with a processor and a GPU. And I'm going to put the processor and the GPU speed in the corner. Now, Superbox has been around for 4 years, so it is not a fly-by-night company. I'm going to repeat that. Superbox has been around for 4 years, so it is not a fly-by-night company. So if they've been doing something illegal for 4 years, I would imagine it would have been dealt with by now. Now, how does Superbox operate? Well, it has what they call IPTV. That's called Internet Protocol Television. And other companies, really big companies, also use IPTV. One good example in Canada would be Bell Fiber. Bell Fiber uses an IPTV to get people about 700 channels. And for that service, they charge about $140 a month. Yeah, that's right. They charge $140 a month for about 700 channels. Now, I've had 2 of these boxes in my possession. I put one, the Ultra one, on my TV, and I gave the other one to a friend of mine so that he could use it on his internet connection because he's using Virgin. So my internet speed is 400 megabytes per second download and 50 megabytes per second upload. Why is mine so high? Well, I do YouTube. I upload videos, and I don't want to wait all night to wait for my video to upload. So it is kind of part and parcel for being a YouTube content creator that you have high-speed internet. So if you are doing YouTube, that's on a side note, you might want to increase your internet speed. So we're going to go to the downward shot. We're going to take a look at this box and see what you get. Okay, so this is the box. I've taken it out of its other box, of course. It comes with an AC adapter, it comes with HDMI cables, and it comes with a remote control. I'm just going to go back to me for a quick second. There are no batteries in the remote control. It takes AAA batteries. So if you order one of these, order some AAA batteries or just go to the store and pick up some. But for some reason, it doesn't come with AAA batteries. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, well, with the cost of the box, you think they could throw in some batteries. But I do have an explanation why they didn't do that. Because in my flex address, my post office box, if you ship anything with batteries, they can refuse it because batteries can be explosive. So they tend not to want to take things that are battery operated. So by shipping it without batteries, they don't have to put those warning labels on the box that it's a device that has batteries in it. So it helps them avoid that obstruction of different carriers. So some carriers will not accept things if they have batteries, and that's why it probably didn't come with any batteries. But it's not hard to pick up some AAA batteries, but it is unfortunate that they're not included in the box. Some carriers don't care, but I've had this problem when trying to order things through Amazon, and it says you can't have it delivered to your flex address because it's got batteries in it. So that's why. So let's go back to the downward shot and take another look. Okay, so on the back of it, this is where your HDMI connection is, and you'll plug this into your TV and you plug the other end into the box. This is an Ethernet port, so you can connect it directly to your router. And this is a digital optical port so that you can connect it to a soundbar. And I actually use that on my soundbar and it works good. Now this connection here is an old school AV connection, so you can get one of those connectors that kind of look like one of these at this end, and then it's got the RCA connectors at the other end, and then you would hook it into an older TV. And then this one here is if you want to hook up an infrared remote extender, but you don't need that with this because it's also Bluetooth, and there's a way to hook that up as well. On this side, you've got USB-A 3.0 and USB-A, and this over here is a micro SD card slot. So if you want to plug in some photos and stuff and review them on a little app and you can display photos, or if you've got video and you want to put your video on here and play it on your TV, you can. So let's say you have a GoPro or something and you want to take out the SD card and play it right on your TV. You just plug it into here and then you can play it through a player. Now this little hole here is a reset button, and most of you will never ever have to use this, but should you run into an issue, you can hit this little button inside there with a pin, like a needle or a pin, and then you can reset the device back to its factory settings. So on the bottom of the box, and I'm just going to cover up my serial number, your serial number will be where it says serial number, and of course there's some ventilation holes. It was made in China and it was inspected. So I'm just gonna move that out of the way there. Okay, and it has two antennae, which are nice because it'll make sure that you get a good reception to the box itself, and it is made of metal, so it's a very solid little unit. So can't complain about that. So we're going to go back to me. Okay, so the box itself isn't really all that special compared to, let's say, your NVIDIA Shield or your Chromecast boxes or your Google boxes or your Fire Sticks or your Roku boxes. What makes this box special is you can get proprietary software that works with the box. That's right. And you can't just get the software, you have to get the box. That's the catch. And once you buy the box, they can actually activate and deactivate the box remotely. So what is so special about those apps? And what is the legalities associated with those apps? Well, in Canada, and that's where I live, it's actually not illegal to watch or view a streamed pirated movie. Yeah, that's true. I'm actually going to put something in the corner right now that I found when I was researching that. And the reason why they don't really persecute people for this is because it's very difficult to tell if you actually watched it. They have to kind of prove who watched it. Did you watch it? And the other thing is how long you watched it for. What does that mean? So what it means is if I went to a movie theater and I watched a movie for about 30 minutes, I think you have about 30 minutes, and then I go up to the window where I bought my ticket and I said, I didn't like that movie and I'd like my money back. there's a good chance, not 100%, that I can get my money back because A, I didn't watch the movie in its entirety. Two, I said that I didn't like the movie and that I want my money back. And most theaters are going to say, well, we don't want to lose your business and we're very sorry. You know, after all, they didn't make the movie, but they did sell you the ability to watch the movie because they have the copyright license to show the movie. And therefore, you can get your money back. Now, IPTV is also legal. Why? Because somebody had to buy the copyright to distribute or show that information. Now, a company like this is going to buy it the cheapest way they can, and then they're going to put it on servers, and then they're going to redistribute it. So when you go into this box for the first time, you have to download some of the apps. And that's where they put a disclaimer. And they have to put this disclaimer because it varies from country to country what you can do with your TV. So some countries are more restrictive than other countries. Now, if I had to give some advice, there's a difference between downloading a movie and streaming a movie. Okay? So in Canada, if I download copyright content and I didn't pay for it, that's against the law and I can be punished for that. If I stream it, that is not against the law and I can watch it and I can stream it. And the reason why is I'm not in possession of it. In other words, it is not in my device where I can just watch it and I can hand it. I haven't put it on like a USB drive or anything like that. So if you take a movie, for instance, and you put it on a USB drive, that would be downloading it. You were in possession of it. But if you just stream it using your Wi-Fi, you're not in possession of it, you're just viewing it. So I hope that can clear things up a bit, the difference between downloading and streaming. And these boxes are set up specifically for streaming. These little boxes here do keep a history of everything that you watch depending on which app you're in. So if I go into the video on demand app, I can actually go through my history of everything that I watch. And if I want to go back to a movie, it'll even remember where I left off, and then I can go back to it and continue watching it from there. I found when I did use this box, I did find that the picture quality was really good. This is advertised as a 6K box. Yeah. Now, what is the difference between the Ultra and the Max? Well, it has to do with the storage. Now, I know that that's going to sound kind of funny because you're thinking to yourself, well, you just talked about not downloading things, so why all of a sudden is storage important? So storage is important because when you put apps on things, that still requires storage. So when you're searching from channel to channel, you get things like cookies and things of that nature, and those things can eat up storage space as well. And as they eat up storage space, they can also slow down the performance of your device. So if you've ever used a computer and you said, geez, why am I losing memory? It's because every time you go to a website or anytime you do that, and when you're streaming, it's kind of like you're going to websites because these are website driven television stations, okay? So when you look in the corner of whatever you're watching, and I'm very sorry I can't show you an example because I do not want to get demonetized as a result of showing you copyright content. So in the corner of your TV, it's going to show you your internet connection, and that's going to be measured in kilobytes per second. And the higher that connection speed is, the better. I find that on this little box here, that it runs best when that's above 200 kilobytes per second. Now there's also a bottom indicator, and that will tell you your connection strength, and that's measured as a percentage, and that will be 70, 80, 90%. You're going to be looking at anything over 70 for a stable connection. Now, that's not always displayed. When you're in video on demand, it only displays the top number and it won't display the bottom number. You can also turn that display on and off because there's a toggling feature in your setup menu. So before I go on any further, I'm going to create a playlist so that if you want to know specifics about this box, in other words, how to program the remote control or how to set it up, that sort of thing, I'm going to put that there. I don't like to regurgitate information. I like to give you new information. And this video is about the value of this box. Is it worth the money? And in my opinion, the answer is yes. And the reason why is that at $140 a month for a cable company, it would not take very long to pay for this box. So I have a friend who owns a very similar box to this, and he's had his for over a year, and he wouldn't trade it for anything. I also have another friend who has another style of box where he actually pays a yearly rental fee for his, and he still finds that to be cheaper than to go through the cable company. So this particular box, there's no subscription. You buy the box and that's it. And that's the truth. You just buy the box, you hook it up. They even have customer support, and they have it in about 4 different ways. So the customer support has 3 different QR codes, and you can also contact your manufacturer. So what I would recommend doing is buying this box through Amazon. Now, I am going to include all of the links to buy this box. So if you want to buy it directly from the manufacturer, you can. So if you think, well, I'll take a chance, I'll save some extra money and I'll buy it directly from the manufacturer, because that's the advantage of doing that. But if you want to say, well, I would like that 30-day assurance thing that Amazon has, and I would like to buy it through there. Now, before you do that, make sure that that's going to be valid, that it's not under what they refer to as a third party. But Amazon usually lets you know if that guarantee doesn't apply. So if you want to make sure that you have the most, I guess, safe way of buying it, then go through Amazon. Now, the fact that you can buy this on Amazon also tells you that it's not illegal to buy this box, because Amazon would get into a lot of trouble if they were selling things that was illegal to buy. So I've been using this box and testing it. I've tested all their different channel packages, the ones that they have that are proprietary, and I even put on, my own Google Play Store, where I can put on my YouTube Premium and the stuff that I pay subscriptions to. So if you want to use this box just like any other streaming box, you can. It has the Google Play Store on it, but it also has its own App Store. And its own App Store is where you get those apps where you can watch all of those channels that I was talking about. So I've had this box hooked up to my TV, and my friend has had it hooked up to his TV, and they work just fine. I've used it for the video on demand. I've used it to live stream cable channels. I've used all of the different apps that are proprietary to this box. So the apps that these guys use that are proprietary to this box are called Blue TV. And you can't get Blue TV unless you buy this box. So if you think that you're just going to get Blue TV, you can't. As a matter of fact, when I got this box, they had to activate it just so that I could download the Blue TV to it, because otherwise it will say device abnormal. And if you get a device abnormal error, you need to contact them. You have to give them the serial number and the MAC address of this box, and they can activate it remotely. And if you ever have any problems with it, you can do what they call a ROM updater. They have all kinds of software updaters. So we're going to talk about that a little bit too. Now, this particular box, because it's a computer, is a little more complicated than your average cable box. So I noticed on Amazon that there was one complaint, and it was because the person didn't really understand what this box was. They probably thought it was a plug and play situation where you just plug it into your TV and it automatically just works from the get-go, and that is not how this box works. You have to have a little bit, not a huge amount, but a little bit of computer literacy, because you may have to download those apps from the APK store and go through some different procedures. So if you're afraid of computers or you don't have any luck with computers, then you'll need to do one of two things. You're going to have to get someone over to your house that knows about computers that can help you set up this box. Once the box is set up, it's not really an issue at that point. You know, you'll have to do the odd updates. It also has the ability to clean out the cache and things like that, because those things can actually slow down the performance of a box like this. And they do have software to make sure that, you know, your internet speed is running at the right speed and things like that. So that's why, you know, you have to have a little bit of knowledge about computers, because this is essentially a computer. It has a CPU and a GPU, and that's why it can stream really, really well. I was watching movies on this box that had just come out. They're on video on demand, and they were streaming really nice. Now, sometimes you'll go into a movie and it won't stream. It'll do what I refer to as freeze, and then you have to leave it and then come back to it. And what that does is you're severing the connection. It's like hanging up on someone if you call them up and then you call back. So I don't know if you've ever phoned anyone or not on your cell phone and you got a bad connection and you figure to yourself, well, it must be a bad cell tower. So then you'll hang up and then you'll call them back, and then sometimes another cell tower will kick in and you'll get a much better connection. Well, that's kind of the analogy I'm going to use when you're doing IPTV. So you have to have a certain level of patience when you're using IPTV. It's not going to be like this, okay, where it's just click, 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 and each channel pops up like blink of an eye fast. It doesn't work like that. So you're going to click on a channel and you're going to wait for a second or two, and then it's going to show you what's playing. And then you're going to click on another channel and then it's going to show you what's playing. So everything happens a little bit slower. Sometimes there's a 1 second delay, sometimes there's up to a 5-second delay. However, when you think about how many channels that you have access to and the vast amount of entertainment that you have access to, it's kind of a trade-off. You have to say, well, I bought this box, I paid a one-time fee, and I have everything. So for me, waiting a few extra seconds to see if it loads is not really a big deal. The thing is you get all of the sports. And when I mean all of the sports channels, I mean Major League Baseball, hockey, UFC fights, boxing, pretty much everything. I think I even seen golf on there. If you have ever had to buy a hockey package, like an NHL package, it can be an extra $200 to buy that package for one season. And if you can get that at no extra cost, well, that's kind of a bonus. So what are the things I would recommend to have this box operate more securely and safely? Because after all, this is a computer. And when you're switching channels and you're going to different channels and it looks like you're just going from channel to channel, you're actually going to different websites and you're looking at those channels from websites. So when you think about it that way, you should have a secure connection. So I took the liberty of getting a VPN. And I didn't just get any regular VPN, I got one that is for very secure connections, because I wanted to make sure that not only was the connection secure, that I was having my emails monitored, that I was having malware monitored, that I was having, you know, I basically got, I think it was like one tier under the very top tier, which was kind of expensive. But for me, I don't want to have my bank accounts hacked. I don't want to have anything hacked, and I also don't want malware put on this device because this is a computer, I have emails on this device. Because I have emails on this device, I don't want those emails getting hacked. So I got a VPN, and you can get any VPN you want. I'm not sponsored by any VPN company. I don't go around and ask for sponsorships. I just got one that suited this box, and I got one that would automatically connect when I turn the box on. So if you want to know the name of it, I got NordVPN, N-O-R-D VPN, and I got that one. And I think the package that I got was about $250 Canadian for 2 years. So that's for 2 years. My friend who has the other box does not have a VPN hooked up at all. Okay, so you can use this box without a VPN. And that was the reason why I got both of these boxes. I did not want you to know that it was just a one-sided thing, because people that buy these boxes are people that are looking for a more economic way of reducing their bills when it comes to things like cable. We all like to come home and relax and watch our favorite TV shows and watch our cable, and we don't want to have to spend any more than it is possible. As a blue-collar person, we are overrun by subscription fees. And that's the disappointing thing that's been happening to a lot of people, is that they're getting what I refer to as subscription poor. And that is one of the reasons why things like this are becoming so popular, because you pay one fee and you're done. Okay, so now we're on the downward shot, and I've got the box hooked up. I've got the power supply hooked in, I've got the HDMI plugged in, and I've basically got it hooked directly into my video switcher. Now I'm going to go to the screen of the box in the corner. So I'm going to move myself around. So I'm going to have myself on the main screen now. So this is the main screen of the Superbox, and I'm going to go into the settings. And if I have to blur anything out, I'm going to, because there is some information there that could be copyright, and I'm going to take myself off here for a second. I'm in the corner at the top there, and I've got these settings. I'm going to show you something about the settings. So we're going to go into mouse mode. So this is mouse mode, and if you look, you're going to see a little mouse arrow, and that's by clicking on the remote control. And on the remote control, mouse mode is right there. It's that little tiny button right there. I know that you're going to have a hard time seeing that because it's not exactly well lit over here, but it's right there. It's in the bottom left-hand corner where it says OK. So this says OK, and down here it's mouse mode. So I'm going to put the remote in mouse mode, and when you do that, you'll see a little thing there, and it will say entering mouse mode, and then it'll say exiting mouse mode. So now we're in mouse mode, and if I go here and I click onto this little gear icon and I click on that, now I've got the settings over here. So I'm going to move myself now to the other side, and I'm going to hit this and put myself in there. Okay, so now if you go into the settings, now I'm going to go out of mouse mode, and I'm just going to click on here. So now I've got my internet connection, there's the Bluetooth, there's the apps, and when you go into here, you have to go into the apps. There's your device settings. So when you're going into these things, you have to keep in mind that this is a little computer, and you know, it's got the ability to restart. So if you want to restart it, you can even update the firmware and the software on this thing, because again, it's a little computer. And over here it just tells you what it's about, and you can do factory resets, and this was the Ultra. It tells you the name and the version number and all of that other stuff. So one of the things I'm going to talk about right now is how to set the time. So you go into the date and the time, and then you're going to set your time zone, and I've got it clicked on, let me see, it'll be lit up in blue. So for me, it was Eastern Daylight Time. And that's going to affect the what the clock says on the box itself. So I'm just going to go back to that. So here's the downward shot of the box, and I've got the correct time here, and it tells you the time, tells you got a Wi-Fi link, and everything's fine. And there we go. So we got that hooked up there, and that's so that's how you set the time. And some people are going to be frustrated with that, so that's why I thought I would go in and talk about that. I didn't see a lot of people talking about that. And then to go into the menu, just click on the menu, and then it'll go back to the main menu. And this is what the main menu looks like. And on here, I've also set up my NordVPN. So on this screen too, you also have the ability, and I'm just going to go out of mouse mode, and I'm going to click, so I'm going to go out of mouse mode, and then I'm going to click on this. And this little broom thing that you click on, it just frees up memory and gets rid of any residue, cache, or any junk files, that sort of thing. And then if you click on this one, it does a speed test for you automatically, and it'll tell you what your download and your upload speed is. Now for some reason, mine is showing slower than what it actually is. Like, it's saying 100 megabytes per second, but I've actually got 400. So sometimes it's faster, sometimes it's slower, but I can just go back to the main menu again, and of course I have subscriptions to YouTube, so I can put on my own YouTube stuff if I want to. That's copyright stuff that I actually have. Now I'm going to go into the App Store just to show you briefly, and in the App Store you can have all of these different apps. Now these ones here are the ones that are the main ones. This is the backup one, this is the playback, this is the Blue TV, and this is the Blue VOD. These are the ones that give you all of the channels. All of the other ones that I've got here are just ones that you can get. Now, if you're into adult content, I put this one on here, and this is for people that like to watch adult movies. Now, I don't watch adult movies, but I just wanted to show you what the app looked like, because there are literally 100 apps in there, and I figured you're going to want to know which is the right one to get if you're into that kind of thing. So if you're into those kind of movies, that's the app that you're going to want to get, and then you'll be able to get those movies, and they're also no charge. Now you can also go into your Google Store, and you can have all of the, so if you bought a movie through the Google Play Store, you can still watch it on here, and I've got some on there. Get this off of there. Okay, so I've showed you what the box basically looks like, and I'm going to have to, I'm really worried about that one corner of the main screen, because that content, just showing that stuff can be a violation of copyright. But I wanted to show you what the main menu at least looked like, so that you could get an idea of what it looks like when you plug this thing in and hook it up. If you looked in that menu, they also had a backup playback channel. Now that channel, that streaming little package software, is so that if the other ones are not working, you can use that one, and that one might work. In other words, they have a backup to their original. So if one's not functioning properly, you can go to that one. Maybe the version or the updated version has a glitch or something, because these are software packages that have to do updates. And sometimes when they do updates, everything works better. And sometimes when they do an update, things can actually get worse, as you know. So that's why they have this backup package. So if you want to know what that's for, it's for that reason. Something else isn't working, you can go to that. The whole point is so that you can find something enjoyable to watch on TV. Now, I noticed in the one menu alone, it had over 1,800 channels. That's right, 1,800 channels. Now, some of them, of course, are east, west, north, south, that sort of thing. But I did not find myself in a situation where I couldn't find something to watch. This box has so many channels and so many backup channels that it would be virtually impossible not to find something to watch. If you can't find something to watch on this box, then I don't think there's anybody that can help you. This thing has everything. I was able to watch the latest movies. I can't tell you what they are, but the latest movies that are out there that are available for $24.99, I was able to watch them for free using this box. So that brings me back to that whole legal question. Is it legal? Well, they had to get a license someplace to show this information. And that's what IPTV is all about. They go to a country where they can get these licenses as cheap as possible. So in Canada, for instance, if I wanted to get one of these licenses, it would cost a lot of money because they'd be like, oh, you're from Canada, you want to have a distributor license, it's going to cost a lot of money. It might be a lot cheaper in another country. It might be substantially cheaper. And then they have to get a lot of server boxes, of course, for guys that own these boxes. And that's where I'm going to get into that as well. So what is the downside of this system? Well, the downside is, as they sell lots of these boxes, they also have to keep up with the servers to meet the customer demand. So I'm going to be doing a long-term review of this box and let you know if I have any issues with it. And I'm also going to be doing a long-term review of the other one that I've given to my friend so that we have a fair comparison of how they're performing. Now, I would imagine in 6 months or a year, Superbox is going to come out with their S7 or their S8, and that's probably just going to have a faster processor, maybe more memory, that sort of thing. Now, I did get some information on their older models. So on their S1 to S3, they were running a different chipset and a different GPU. But after that, they switched over to a different processor and a different GPU on their S5. And this box here is their highest performer. Because it does H.265 encoding, this thing can do 6K encoding, which is really good. It gives a really nice picture quality. When I hooked that other one up to my friend's TV, he was very impressed with the picture quality that it was actually giving him. He has a Roku, and this thing was doing way better than the Roku. So it is not a slouch when it comes to performance. It is probably it probably gives you the equivalent to a mid to higher end cell phone as far as performance goes, GPUs and chipset goes. So when I look at the chipset and the GPU, if you look at a mid-range to high-range cell phone, and you know that you can play movies and stuff on those cell phones without any glitches, it is that level of performance, so it's not going to give you any problems. But as far as using it for things like gaming, well, games are very demanding, and you're not going to be doing any games on a cable box. So it's not set up for gaming, they don't have it made for gaming, so there won't be any gaming on this box. So it is geared for a very specific use, but it does that use rather well. So who is this box for? It is for a person that is subscription poor. They cannot afford to get into any more subscriptions. They do not have any desire to buy any expensive cable packages. The cable company wasn't getting their money anyway. So that's the person that would go for this type of box. They would pay a one-time fee, they would save up their money, they'd probably do some overtime like most blue-collar people would do. They would save up their pennies, they would buy this box, and then they would have something enjoyable to watch. How long can you get out of one of these boxes? Well, to my knowledge, the S1 box is still operational, and that was done 4 years ago. So I would probably recommend that those people upgrade to a newer version now because they're running an older Android version. This is running Android 12, and those ones are running Android 9. So Android 9 isn't going to run as smoothly. In other words, you're going to have pixelation, granulation, more glitches, more freeze frames, what they call screen tearing, things like that. Those are things that are going to happen as your version of Android gets older and as other things are advancing. So I would expect to get roughly about 3 years before you upgrade. Now, if you take the cost of the box and you divide it by 3 years, and then you divide that by 12 months, it's not really all that expensive when you break it down like that. It's pretty cheap. Would I recommend this box? Well, it all depends on the person that you are. If you are not tech savvy, or if you do not have anyone tech savvy that can give you a hand, then I probably wouldn't recommend this box for you. You're just going to get frustrated, and I don't think Superbox wants to sell boxes to people to have them be frustrated only to return the box. They want to make sure that this box gets sold to the right type of customer, and that's why I'm making this video. The person that should own this box has to have some knowledge of computers, has to have the ability to understand, how to hook up your Wi-Fi to a device, has to have the ability to navigate the internet, because if you're totally oblivious to this, you're going to struggle. Now, there are workarounds. If you don't know anything about computers and you still want to get one of these boxes, here's something you can do. There are services that you can get. There are IT people that you can call up, and you can say, hey, I wanted to buy one of these Superboxes. Do you think you could help me install it? Do you think you could hook it up to my Wi-Fi? Do you think you could put on a VPN for me and have it so that it boots up all by itself? Because you can hook up the NordVPN that I was talking about and have it initialize all by itself. Then you will have your own tech support. But that's not going to come free. But even if you had to pay for that, it would still be cheaper than if you had to pay a cable company $140 a month. So one disadvantage that would come with this box is that for every television you need a box. So if you want to have one in the bedroom and one in the living room, you're going to need a box for each one. So what's another advantage to this box? Well, another advantage is that if I go someplace, if I travel, I can take this thing with me. It doesn't matter where I go. And because I'm using a VPN, I'm totally secure. I can take it to a hotel, I can plug it into the TV there, I can have this thing up and running. When I hooked it into my video switcher, it was a no-brainer. I just plugged it in, it boots up, everything's fine. The only reason why you need some computer knowledge is for the initial hookup, or if you run into a glitch, then you need to understand how to deal with those glitches. And even though they have customer support, you should have some basic knowledge of computers to help you navigate these issues. You need to be able to understand some computer terminology so that you don't get frustrated. So who is this box not for? This box is not for commercial use, meaning showing content to an audience. You would not put this in an establishment and show customers, like at a bar or a restaurant, like a sports bar, and show them content using this box. You can't even do that with other cable boxes. I'm not saying you can't hook it up and you can't display the content. I'm saying it's illegal to do this. If you get caught doing this, you actually can lose your liquor license. Yeah, it's a very serious offense. So this is not for commercial use. This is for personal use, and that is it. Now, you do have to have some patience when using something like this. So if you do run into a situation with a glitch, the screen will come on, it'll say leave the channel and come back to it. And that way you're kind of reloading it. So you have to be more patient. And if you have no patience at all, this box is not for you. You have to have some patience. Not a huge amount of patience, but just some patience. If you expect things to work like this, even a computer doesn't do that. Even if you went to Bell Fiber, for instance, and got one of their boxes, you could still run into those glitches. Not as many, but you still would. So it's not going to be perfect, regardless of whatever format that you try to get all of those channels in. This, in my opinion, is a good compromise. And that's about as honest as I can put it. You have to have some patience. When I click on a channel, it's not going to show right away. It may be 1 or 2 or 3 second lag on the delay because it's got a buffer and it's got to load it in. And then I'm going to see what it is, and then I'm going to go from there. And it's not an instantaneous thing. So I'd like to thank Superbox for sending out these streaming boxes for me to review. It was very interesting and very different than what I normally do. I usually do microphones and cameras and that sort of thing. But this really is something that applies to my audience because I'm all about the biggest bang for your buck. And this is definitely a good bang for your buck. So that's it for this video. I hope that this information helps you when you're making your decision. Now, one thing that I always tell people is don't just buy something based on my video. I'm going to leave a playlist of other videos and related to this box. Watch those videos. Always do your research before spending your hard-earned money. And don't forget to inquire about your local laws to make sure that you're not breaking any laws if you're using the software associated with this box. Because the last thing I want is for any of my subscribers to get into trouble over something that I reviewed. Take care, be safe at work, and I will see you at the next video. And if you wonder where I am, well, I'm probably watching some movies now. Bye.